Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Line Change, the NHL betting podcast from the Action Network, presented to you by our sponsors at BetMGM. My name is Michael Leboff. Joining me for this episode, and every episode, my co-host Nick Martin. And Nick, we always start these episodes with our favorite underdogs, and this is a new one for us. We both have an underdog play in the same game, but it's not the same bet. How is that possible? You'll find out in 1 second. I like the Ottawa Senators. They're 2-1 against the Florida Panthers. The over/under in this one is 7. It's a game where the stakes are incredibly high for Florida. They're tied with the Islanders right now. They have wild card 1. The Islanders have wild card 2 on a tiebreaker, both on 87 points. The Pittsburgh Penguins on 86 points, just 1 point back. Florida just got a huge win against the Buffalo Sabres in what was essentially a playoff game on Tuesday night. That was their 4th win in a row. In that stretch, they've allowed 5 goals. They've scored a bunch, plus 12 goal differential, 17 goals scored, 5 against. Alex Lyon, journeyman, minor league goaltender, has played goal for Florida in all those matches. It looks like it's going to be Sergei Bobrovsky in this one. He's back from an illness that cost him a week. They say he's healthy. He should be good to go, and in all likelihood will start. Whether it is Lyon or Bobrovsky, I like Ottawa here. I think the number should go up because I don't see many people wanting to bet against Florida in this spot. This is the classic must-win narrative. Will mean will probably have to pay a premium if you want to get down on Florida. Since, yeah, sure, you can say Ottawa are still in the race mathematically, but they drop, I think, 1 point and they're done. So, but I still like Ottawa here because they're a team that gives you a consistent effort. They have offensive upside, and while the defense is banged up, I mean, they're banged up maybe is an understatement, missing Jacob Chikrin and Thomas Chabot, and their goaltending, like they played 7 goalies this year. It's nothing new to them. Like, this isn't something new to Ottawa where it's, this is just what they've been dealing with all season. They have the ability to outscore. They have the ability to drive play. They're always a dangerous underdog because of their talent level. And I just think this number is going to get too big on Florida because they are hot. And a lot of that is just, I think, been unsustainable goaltending from Alex Lyon. So, coupled with a weak schedule, right? Like, they blew out Montreal. They blew out Columbus. They were lucky to beat Toronto. Buffalo, I think they played a pretty good game against. But still, like, if Alex Lyon plays the Alex Lyon level, they probably don't win that game. So I just think the market's going to get too high in Florida. So I'm going to go with Ottawa here, hoping for this number to tick up. And for you, let's get your thoughts on the game, and then you can give out your plus money pick in this one.
Yeah, I think Ottawa's really respectable. They played a really, really good game in Carolina. Like I actually was pissed. I went in on the Sens live and managed to middle another double loss because it was clear they were outplaying Carolina, and that was with some really debatable calls going their way. I thought if anything, they were going to be owed more makeup calls than they got in the third. The top line looked really, really good, which I thought was really promising in what was a really tough matchup versus Carolina. So yeah, I like it. I'm just a little scared that the blow up is coming in goal. I think it was really surprising to see the Buffalo game stay so low scoring, which is a bit of my angle here. I still think Florida's offense is pretty elite. And the guy I'm really targeting, I think Anthony Duclair to score a goal is going to be an excellent play in this game. Hopefully it'll still be about plus 275. It was plus 310 versus Buffalo in a game where Florida was slightly less favored, but with the same total. So Florida's implied total is higher in this one. But I think probably losing 45 cents is fair. And that is around what I would expect. Duclair is generating a ton of chances. He's shooting just 2.5% on the season. And this is a proven score. He got robbed by Levi in the last game, missed that one-timer that got blocked on the empty net. But I have faith that he'll break through. He's getting some really good chances playing with Barkov. So I think there's a lot to like there. He's almost 6 goals below expected, having missed. That's only in 16 games. So if you look at it, that's basically right with the league leaders in most unlucky shooters. And he's not a guy who's going to project to finish like this all year. Like, he can score goals. So I think once the number starts to rise, his shooting percentage, that being closer to his career mark, this is just gonna be a really good play. I like the way he's playing. They're kind of consistently using him. So, if you wanted to wait until he starts going off and then start really getting on in on this, fair. But this is like a pure goal scorer, I think, that's at a slightly reduced rate in a good spot. So for me, I think the breakthrough's coming, and I want to target Duclair scoring in this game.
Onto the big board here. It's busy night Thursday. NHL's off on Friday. I know we said we might do an episode for the Saturday slate, which has all 32 teams in action, but with the holidays, it just was not going to work out. But it is a really busy Thursday, and we'll start this section with the Leafs. They're plus 135 in Boston. The Bruins minus 155. The over under 6. This is a tough one to just break down because I think both teams will look to sit some guys. Boston more so than Toronto, I would think. Especially like if Tampa wins against the Rangers on Wednesday night, like, they can maybe convince themselves they want to lock down home ice 100%. But it's the type of game that if this was happening 7 or 8 weeks ago would have been very exciting. But with the way the Bruins have just run away and the fact that the Leafs have been pigeonholed into the 2-3 matchup all season, it doesn't look that way. And I think Toronto's a little going to play things very cautiously with, they're going to get Ryan O'Reilly back in the lineup. But I think he's going to take out another one of the big, top 6 players. Maybe see Joseph Woll start. He's been good, but there's just so much lineup uncertainty is the point for this one that it's hard to pick a spot. I would say it's at the prices, like assuming the lineups are going to be depleted, I would lean towards Toronto, but uh, why bet against the Boston Bruins at this point? Like it feels like needless.
Yeah, this whole game just feels like one I don't just kind of a lot of variables, not something I think is just that I really want to get involved with. Obviously there's both teams want to play really sharp hockey heading into the postseason. But I think like trying to kind of play mistake free and like a clean game compared to having like real urgency in a spot that matters is kind of two different things. So for me, I don't really think it's a game I want to touch. I don't think it's a game we want to read too much into. If say like Toronto plays good and beats Boston, that's not going to make me like look at the second round and be like, oh wow, Toronto could beat them. And I know anyone who follows the Leafs would love to point that out because who cares what they do in the regular season? But I think it does kind of go both ways where it's just like this isn't the playoffs. There's 5 games left. Yes, the teams want to play good hockey heading into that, but I think that's a little different than a spot where something's really on the line. So yeah, I think it's just kind of a weird game to try to get involved with.
The Sabres and Red Wings next. It's a pick 'em in Detroit, minus 110 each side, 6.5 total. Uh, Buffalo loses in Florida on Tuesday night. That was a massive game for Buffalo, like their biggest game in 11 or so years. I thought they played all right.
I thought they
The,
played great.
yeah,
I mean, like they got good goaltending for once, but
right. They got good goaltending
they
and
could have had a bunch and just kind of
had a
snake
goal
bit.
taken
So
off. And the first goal Florida scores hits off the post, then up Levi's back, and then it was. Yeah, I think you can argue both sides deserved to, like the Panthers were a deserving winner and the Sabres maybe were deserving of a better result as well. But it does feel like it could be a little bit of a letdown spot. Tage Thompson played. He didn't look all that great. Like he's certainly still banged up. Like this Leafs Bruins game, I just don't really see a reason to get involved. With this one, I think JJ Peterka's anytime goal scorer price. You mentioned Duclair. Um, we'll start building out a little round robin here. I'll mention Paterka. I feel like he's always a little undervalued. He was 5-1 to score against Florida. That number should come down a little bit in this one. But he's someone who I always feel dangerous. That second line's good. Uh, and he gets some power play time as well. So Paterka, anytime goal scorer will be the one that I circle here.
yeah, and I'd say keep your eye out on if Thompson did sit play middle stat props. It's been really good to us when he subs in. If you're just playing point, power play point, when he's gotten on the top line, he got some usage there when Skinner was suspended, and he got some usage there when Thompson had his last stint on the IR. So if maybe Tage was fighting something and is now kind of at the point where that they're done, he doesn't want to play through it or whatever, that would be something to keep an eye out for as well. And yeah, with regards to the game, I kind of lean Buffalo if they're going to start getting goaltending. I still think this is a pretty strong team, but Detroit's showing enough that kind of just a lean Sabres.
What about the Blue Jackets plus 320 against the Devils? New Jersey minus 390 at home. The over under 7. Jersey still has a chance to chase down Carolina. I think they actually might fancy themselves here in this race. With they're 3 points back and they've played one more game than Carolina, but Carolina has since Svechnikov's gone out, like they're just not playing. The margin for error is just so much thinner. We saw it against the Senators too. Like they get to go to overtime. They beat the Islanders but in a 1-goal win. It's just not been it's not been discouraging, but it's not like you almost were maybe looking for a little more. This team could easily lose 2 in a row. Carolina and the Devils can win 2 in a row and all of a sudden, sneak out with the division. So um and they're set up nicely here. Jet Greaves I'm assuming will start for Columbus. I don't know if they've named anyone, but he played really well against Toronto the other night. 46 saves and a 3-2 loss. Maybe something with his alternate save total or something, but in terms of a game, nothing.
Yeah, I actually thought that if anything, it seemed like Toronto was a little flat, even though they got 48 shots, 49 shots. But that's just a comment. Like Columbus is so depleted right now. It's like they're skating out the year and they're in tough. So I don't mind I kind of like the Greaves saves look, but I also wouldn't be surprised. Like it seemed like Toronto didn't open them up as much as you might expect on like some of the truly elite chances. And I kind of like it, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see like it blow up a little bit more. So some that you can just get team shot props out there. They're a little more rare, but like there's some spots where I think those are starting to have more merit if you can play them. And this could be one of those as well, because I think it would need to be a high number. Like the Devils are probably hitting 40, 42 on average here, 43 shots on goal. So something to keep an eye out for, I'd say.
A huge one between the Wild and Penguins for both teams. Minnesota's plus 105 in Pittsburgh. Penguins coming back minus 125 off of a blowout loss to the Devils. Pittsburgh now has the 25th best record in the NHL since Christmas, which kind of just a point to make about this wild card race. While the Islanders and Panthers were not good for a large portion of the season, now like I think objectively we can say Pittsburgh is probably the worst team of the group as it stands right now, but they have the easiest schedule after this Wild game, so we'll see how it shakes out. Like they do play the Blue Jackets, then they close with the Blue Jackets. They have the Red Wings and the Blackhawks. So even if they lose to Minnesota, they're still in it. They are, like I said, a slight home favorite. The total 6.5. Minnesota will start Marc-Andre Fleury. They already confirmed that, which is a fun little wrinkle. As for the Wild, they have everything to play for. The Avalanche, Stars, and Minnesota are all tied on 98 points atop the Central Division. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like this before. None of them are in action on Wednesday night, and all 3 of them are in action on Thursday. So huge game, huge chance for somebody to grab a stranglehold of the division title or division first place of the division. I would say it looks like Minnesota or nothing here. Like you just can't trust Pittsburgh as a favorite, even at home, and even with the price isn't all that crazy. They break down too much. The defense is depleted. The goaltending is oof. So like it gets a team like Minnesota where they'll make it tough for a team like Pittsburgh, who's now just trying to generate and outscore their issues. It's hard to do that against Minnesota right now. So stylistically, I would lean towards Minnesota. Just would have wanted a little bit of a bigger number.
Yeah, I actually I'm leaning towards Pittsburgh. I still think they got dummied by New Jersey, whatever. New Jersey's one of the truly elite sides. I still think like this matchup, I expect Pittsburgh to control more of the play. If they get decent goaltending, I like their chance. I had a good eye. I was excited to watch for Gustafsson saves, and Fleury, I'll probably still play it, but I still just rate him so much worse big picture that it scares me if Pittsburgh's more likely to get a lead and that sort of thing, because I think they will be able to get a good amount of chances on the net here. Their top stars are still playing so well. They got shut down versus New Jersey, which happens.
It's
And it's not that I think this is a well-rounded team, but I think in these spots, they're going to have more of those guys making a difference than what Minnesota has. And Minnie's giving up the last 3 games. They're giving up like 35 shots, and Vegas hadn't been tilting the ice versus anyone. And then, those. So I don't know where I think the Wild are at altogether. And the other thing is, like, I think they are really trying to sag behind the puck and avoid the big breakdowns and just insulate their goalies, which is a good thing playing Pittsburgh like that. That kind of makes the case for them. But I think this is like a game script where we should see a lot of Penguins shots. So that's kind of one thing I'm watching. And yeah, like some of the flaws, everyone, I guess, I was going to say we, and then I'll say anyone who follows hockey closely was really suspicious of the Granlund pickup. He has been trash. So you go and you pick up a player that nobody thought was good anymore, and he does nothing. It's a pretty bad look. I think you might see new management this year. I know that's what Penguins fans want. I've seen some fans saying the lone bright spot of a playoff miss, as opposed to making the playoffs and losing in like 5, is that might guarantee new management. So yeah, I think that's something to keep an eye on. I don't want to sound like I'm actually rating the Penguins that high, but it's kind of a combination of the spot and I don't think the Wild are playing that good. They've got the ridiculous team save percentage rolling for so long. They're kind of due for one, like the Monday game where Dorofeyev tied it late and then they lose in a shootout. So we'll see.
yeah.
I'd like to see the Wild pull it out for futures related reasons, but I'm not overly convinced.
The thing about the Penguins, like there's nothing that feels like good right now with them. Like they feel like it feels like they're almost like the Islanders. I used to feel this way about the Islanders and they still do. I still do. Like the Islanders have to work so hard to score a goal, and it's so frustrating to watch. The Penguins is kind of the opposite, where it's like they need to work so hard to not give up a goal. Like everything almost has to go right for them from whistle to whistle for them to not have a breakdown defensively. Block shot always ends up in an on-man rush. Yesterday, the Devils had a 5-on-1. Like this is a team that it's hard to quantify because the numbers actually paint them all right, but their breakdowns are so bad. Like when you watch them, they're not. It's not like, oh, you're run of the mill 2-on-1. It's Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt or whoever it was yesterday on a 2-on-1 the entire length of the ice. This isn't
right, but that is the best rush team in hockey, probably
right.
coming with a 6-1 loss. Like I think
But it's
that's
not
a
just the
little
Devils
different
either.
than Mini.
Yeah,
Fair.
like it's like
but
this is. I think it's like with Pittsburgh, they're gonna make almost everybody look like a great team in transition. Like even the Islanders, like when they played the Islanders, it's like Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri on a 2-on-1 every other shift. It's funny because like I'll look at the numbers and I'm like, well, maybe I'm just too low on this team, but then they lose. Like they're losing much more often than they're winning since Christmas. So it's like a frustrating thing. I still think people hold them in this like kind of high regard because of Crosby and Malkin and Letang. If a bookmaker really wanted to have some fun with tomorrow's game, they should post an over under on Letang minutes, like 31.5 or something. Guys are just gonna play all game. So
yeah, his shot prop's been good actually too, but it'll be 2.5 will probably be like minus 160 in that game. So
and then after all
probably
this, by the way, like after all like the defensive kind of just like no depth, you can't play Crosby and Malkin and Letang and Gensel all game. Then you're also asking Casey DeSmith, who's had moments, good moments, or Tristan Jarry. And I'm assuming it's going to be to Smith after Jarry got lit up again. Like you're asking him to play well and to outduel, like you said, a team whose goalies are unsustainably hot. But even if they come down to earth a little bit,
Fleury's come down to earth.
yeah,
If I'm wrong, I'll wear it. But he just looks loud. He looks like he has the flaws that he's had for a while. I really, they've been getting by with him. He's kind of regressed a bit from the ridiculous stretch, and he's the one that I'm really like targeting.
yeah. I think
So
if it was Gustafson, I would absolutely be betting the Wild. But
if it was
it's
Gustafson, I'd yeah, and I would love the save prop because it's not that I think it matters that much to get like the extra save that you would get out of Gustafson. It's more that they're more likely to get in a game script where they're losing because they didn't score on like whatever stupid opportunities. So I just think that's where it changes the projection more than like just that goal, where people might be like, okay, well at worst he's going to give up one more goal than Gustafson. So I might still play it. We'll see where it opens, but
that's enough on the Kraken Penguins. It's they it's they're an ultimate like eye test team to me. Uh,
I used to think that when they would beat my Capitals every year and then go win the cup.
yeah, it's very
Not that I think
frustrating.
that's what this is, but
No, no,
some
no. This is and that like
part
that's
of
the other
myself.
frustrating thing is like and this is gonna sound so biased and maybe it is. Florida and the Islanders, like if you want to see some chaos in round one, maybe a team give Boston and Carolina a run for their money. Like, it's not gonna be Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see with those goaltenders.
Yeah.
So, but
Uh
I mean, is
I
Jari
think
that
I think
trash?
Florida is live against either side that they draw. I think the Islanders would be live against either of them. Like Pittsburgh, I wouldn't, and they
Yeah,
will
I
be,
don't
and
know
they
if
won't
I
be
can
priced,
see
and they won't. And I
Florida.
think, and the other thing is like I think whoever gets in, like will they would be priced the same, like as if they're equals, which I just don't
Right.
think is
That I
fair.
think that's definitely a fair point.
Uh, Capitals, your Capitals in Montreal against the Habs over under 6.5. Caps minus 165 on the road. Habs plus 140 at home. I mean, I got nothing here. I would maybe play the Canadiens if the number like ticked up more, but because maybe Washington is playing out the string. No TJ Oshie, but no interest for me.
Yeah, I thought this would be a good spot to consider Montreal, but I think the price is way
Yeah,
closer than I expected, which has me thinking just I guess pass. Like this is at the point where I almost am like starting to consider the Caps because it's that far from what I thought it might be. Montreal has their injury situation is as bad as it's been.
yeah,
We I was kind of kicking myself, especially because I got roasted on Tuesday night, handicapping wise, for not just stacking it on Detroit. I looked at the game, I could not figure out how it opened as a pick 'em. And then I think the case that it shouldn't have opened as a pick 'em was pretty clear 15 minutes into the game when it was just domination. And Caden Primo was not very sharp. So I think Montreal's really regressed closer to like a full blown lottery team. But I had kind of thought that like after that game and the way it went, maybe they'll bounce back a little at home. They've been sharper at home. And then I thought that odds makers might see this as like one where the Caps are a way heavier favorite, but they didn't. So I guess it's all kind of just moot.
it's a little bit of a similar story for me in the next one too. Rangers on a back to back minus 150 in St. Louis, Blues plus 130 and the over under 6.5. I know the Rangers are traveling from New York to St. Louis. They'll play their backup. I was hoping to maybe get a little bit of a bigger number against the Blues. Though I do think this is a good prop game. Uh, Sammy Blais scored again the other night. I think he's up to 9 on the year, and I mean, like it's it might seem square just to do it because he's playing his former team, but he's getting minutes, he's getting opportunity, and he's just going to be firing the puck at all cylinders, and maybe you get a kind of a lackadaisical effort from the Rangers that helps his cause because they'll be playing Tampa Bay on Wednesday night at the Garden. So let's throw him in that round robin, Sammy Blais.
Yeah, I think this is a good game. I lean the Blues. I think this is a great game to back. The over is my preferred play of all because I do not trust. I think Bennington will get to play again after what was, I guess, respectable performance versus Philly. He's pretty lucky the puck just happened. I don't know if you saw that sequence at the end of the game when it was 3-2. There's a one time they kicked out in the slot and he's like on the ground swimming and it just hits him. Uh, and I thought St. Louis defensive play looked pretty shoddy as per usual in that matchup, especially once Philly kind of caught their legs. So versus a significantly more high powered Rangers team, I like that. But I also think we kind of know how New York might look in this spot. They haven't been defending super, super well. It'll be Halak. So I think there's some good avenues for some goals to come up on the board. And maybe another one, like, especially, I don't know if I'll play it tonight, but Kane has been plus 270 to record a power play point versus Mika and Panarin, who are like plus 130. I don't know if they fixed that for tonight's game, but that's just something to keep an eye on because I really don't get it. If they're all going to play power play one, especially with Kane setting it up, I think that they're going to produce pretty even power play points. And I really believe in the Rangers power play. I know they're fighting to figure out how they want to run it, and it's actually been a concern, but I just can't look away from how this should set up. Like they got a great net front presence. Mika's got such a good one timer. Panarin moves the puck so well. He can shoot it too. Kreider's good net front guy. Fox is an excellent quarterback. And then Kane's great stirring the drink on the wall. So I just think like long term, that's going to be a significant strength of New York's. So that's kind of what I want to target in games where they're going to score a lot of goals. So I think keep an eye on that. Canes plus 245 tonight versus Tampa. So we'll see.
On to Carolina and Nashville now. Carolina on the road minus 175, Preds plus 150 at home, 5.5 total. I got nothing. Like I know you were on Jack Jury to score. Uh
He is pretty quiet too. It's kind of a
yeah.
bad. I had pretty bad takes in that game. Honestly, I didn't really think Ottawa was going to kind of take it to them, and their top lines were just a lot better than the Canes' top lines.
Anything for this one?
No, not really. I'll give a shout out. I think Nashville's like fighting hard, and their win over Vegas was pretty impressive. So it's kind of a fun story. Like it's one I'd almost rather enjoy than the situation I'm in, where I kind of bet on them to miss the playoffs and pigeonholed myself into a corner here. But they're really playing like a good, tight, structured team game. They just don't have the bodies to hold much of the puck. So I don't know. The number looks about right. Maybe Carolina bounces back with a big game, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you try not to read too much into this, but Wednesday night the Flames and Jets play. Let's say Calgary wins that. I think you then Nashville becomes even a little bit more alive because there'll be 3 points behind each of those teams, with a game in hand on each, two on the Flames. So yeah, I mean it is a cool story. They did it a couple of years ago and Saros just got like red hot and it's kind of following a similar pattern. So yeah, tip your caps to Nashville. It's one where it's like if you're gonna watch it because you're a hockey fan and you want to, it'll be a good environment, especially like I said if Calgary wins on Wednesday, uh, and you want to throw like $20 on the game. Like I wouldn't blame anyone for betting the Preds.
Yeah. And it's one of those stories like it's nice to see, like you can be proud as a Preds fan that
Right.
just sold and looking to, but everyone in that room deserves a lot of credit because like they shouldn't be doing this. Like I've been questioning the talent on the roster that's left for 10 games and they keep
Yeah,
finding
and they
ways
played a
to.
lot of these last few games without Duchesne, without Forsberg, without Yossi. It's yeah. Um, very nice. The Flyers and Stars next. Philly plus 230 on the road. Dallas minus 275. The over under's 5.5. Oh, excuse me, the over under 6. It would have to be Philadelphia for me, but uh, the Stars like they're still in the mix for the Central Division. I think both of us are a little skeptical about their ceiling in just like in the Western Conference picture overall. But uh, yeah, I mean, I actually can think more I think about it, the more I would like a bet on Philadelphia here.
Yeah, if they had Hart, I could definitely see myself going there. I thought Urson, that Pitlick goal was pretty bad. Like he had a lot of net to shoot at for what it was. And I thought he looked pretty iffy, and that kind of blew up that bet for us. But if Hart came back, I could see getting into that. And I think maybe the over I could see. Dallas has kind of been starting to play a little worse defensively. So that's kind of my thoughts there. Kind of Philly lean, maybe a sneaky spot for some goals as well.
Chicago and Vancouver next. Hawks plus 180 off of. I was kicking myself for not betting Chicago against Calgary. I just knew that the Flames would lose that game. It was just so obvious. Like their whole season was leading to that moment, and I wasn't around to enjoy it. They're plus 180 in Vancouver to take on the Canucks minus 210 over under 6.5. Nothing for me.
Yeah, I've got nothing here. I think maybe, and that was the other one. I hope I should have specifically said that I would wait to play Vancouver with Delia going. Like since we were saying lean towards him playing and then he starts, and I thought he was horrible. Like that first goal was a complete muffin, and then they just got deflated from there. They're up 2-0. So I think that's just the one note. Like you'd think Demko's for sure back for this one, which makes me see it maybe as like a good bounce back spot. I think Talkett's still got them competing hard. They've lost 4 straight. So maybe a reasonable look on Van Tuen in regulation, but I think that's, yeah, kind of Van or pass for me. And to talk about like the Chicago game, they did what they had to do and they finished everything. And I don't even know. I thought that was the best Markstrom had played in a while. And that was giving up a full goal above expected. But I think that was the first one where you could watch the goals back and say these were goals. Like you could watch them back and be like, most NHL goalies probably don't save any of those. If maybe one, I think a lot of goalies, maybe the Wagner shot, they don't have a hole in them. But like I feel like Chicago kind of just held in there and did what they had to. They picked off some of those turnovers, but I don't know if I still rate them. Like I think this team's a mess right now. Also, the Flames just completely fucked the Chicago last bet. Now, if they lose out, we still need both those teams to get a point. So that hurts.
Flames losing me money even when I don't bet the game. Uh, Coyotes and Kraken, they're meeting again. Seattle just whooped them the other night. They are minus 350 at home. Coyotes plus 290 on the road. 6.5 total. Anything for you here?
No, I didn't see much. I thought the prices looked pretty sharp. This is a win and you're in game at home for the Kraken. So that's kind of a fun environment, I think, for, it's been a really, really good story. I hope the Kraken, their defensive game, and they've been playing a ton of weak teams. Everyone knows that they had the easy schedule down the stretch, which was why there's a good case to be made that they could hang around. But their defensive play has been really, really sharp lately. Like they're playing excellent as a team. But the problem is the goaltending is just so mid, which is why I think everyone wants to play them in the playoffs. So I've got my eye on the Kraken, but I think in this game probably looks fair or maybe lean Arizona.
Yeah, I think I'm going to end up betting the Coyotes here. I think as more and more people realize that Seattle wins and is in, more and more money will come in on Seattle. And that should provide a little bit value on a pretty dangerous Coyotes team. Uh, yeah, I think even like at plus 290, it's fine, honestly, which is where we're at right now. So, uh, Coyotes in a revenge spot. I think they got 1 or 2 more wins in them for the rest of the season. So, thank you, Coyotes. We'll see you again. Before we get to top shelf bets, let's talk Avs and Sharks again. Avalanche minus 230, Sharks plus 195, over under 6.5. The Sharks, we didn't mention it on our last episode, which we should have because then they played the Avalanche. They won a couple games in a row after losing a bunch of games in a row and kind of screwed themselves in the lottery race, the tank to the bottom. But this feels like another chance for them to rectify that with a loss. And one name I'll keep an eye on, and we can perhaps chuck them in the round robin. In fact, let's just do it. is Erod, Evan Rodriguez, who's been playing. He's usually a center. He's been playing up on a wing with McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen. So not a bad spot to be. Usually he's a decent price. I think he was around plus 280 last game. So we'll toss Erod in there.
Okay, and I'm gonna say, I mean, he might only be like plus 110 to score in this game, but I kind of think Rantanen gets 50 here. And
Yeah.
then that's another one if I'm watching live and the Avs are up specifically 2 goals late, then definitely play Mikko Rantanen last goal scorer because it is going to be like specifically up 2 is always when I say that is the absolute print spot because then teams can just completely fuck around and try to get their guy his empty netter. So I'm going to watch for that. I think he's still playing good. He kind of got nicked up at the end of that last game too. So maybe, keep your eye on that if it seems like he's a little beat up. But I think Rantanen's going to hit 50 before the year ends. So I'm going to look to play for that.
All right, that brings us to top shelf bets. Our favorite bets for Thursday, April 6th. I'm going to go first because we'll spend some time on the game you're going to circle. The Kings and Knights plus 115. Los Angeles is on the road. Vegas minus 135 over under 6. LA's been banged up, missing some key players, but it looks like they might come back. Specifically, we're talking about Fiala, Mikey Anderson. But I think the key here is that we might see Jonathan Quick start this one, considering it's his old team. And coaches love to put their goalies in those spots. If that's the case, I really like Los Angeles. I think these two teams are peers, like they're dead equal. I think Edmonton's the best team in the Pacific. Then these two are, they're not far behind, but they are maybe on equal footing. And the goaltending looks like the edge goes to Los Angeles, especially if it's Quick in goal for the Knights. So give me the Kings is my favorite bet.
Yeah, I actually think I would rate the Kings above. I'm going to say this with noting the fact that we know Stone might be out.
Right.
But let's say that Anderson and Fiala are in, and specifically, even Velarde's a really underrated guy, which is kind of just the whole Kings MO, just a bunch of good two-way guys that nobody really knows about, especially if you're an East Coaster. I think that's like a real, you're not staying up and watching the Kings too often, but I think that I actually rate them better than Vegas. I think they're a better team, specifically if Korpisalo continues to play well relative to Quick and whatever Vegas has. It's a little more debatable, like if Vegas had their starters, if they had Stone, that sort of thing. So, I'm not trying to get on Vegas here, but I think with like what the Kings should have for the start of the playoffs, I actually think they're a slightly better team. I like their chances a little more of making a run. So I completely see your thoughts here with the Kings. They're a team I really like. So yeah. And yet to like defend them, they played pretty well versus Edmonton. For what I've seen about Oilers fans when like Evander Kane is missing a game, you can't be talking like you just beat the Kings. They didn't have their best forward. They didn't have their top defender. Like that's not
right.
You didn't beat the actual team, especially if your behavior when you're missing like one winger is. So anyways, that series is going to be unreal. I hope it they can avoid it. Maybe if the Kings win this game, but Vegas is already sitting so good. I think if they win 2 of these games, no one can catch them. Is that right in the division? So yeah, I think we'll see. It's an interesting spot in that regard.
All right, we got to do it. We'll flip it to your best bet. Tampa Bay on the island, taking on the Islanders. Bolts are minus 105. Islanders minus 115 at home. Total 5.5. Vasilevsky starting for the Bolts Wednesday night. You'd think that'd be a break for the Islanders, but with the way the Islanders play, it scares me the same, whether it's Brian Elliott or Vasilevsky. I'll flip it to you before I chime in.
Yeah, so I think on first glance, you might look at this and say minus 115 for the Islanders, who are a slight favorite over Tampa, is a little underwhelming. But when you consider the spot, I think that it is actually a really good price because this just sets up so well for an Islanders team that is, playing for so much more, and they're they're just all the intricacies of this spot favor New York so much. Like I think that there's a realistic world where Tampa sit their guys where they might not play them full minutes. I think the Islanders are going to have so much more urgency and yeah, it's I think just a really tough spot. And we've seen Tampa like not kind of be all there in these kind of nights all season long. So I think minus 115 if you get on that early is a great price. I think that there's a world where you gain a ton of line value because Tampa ends up not going back to back with their superstars, which is realistic. They're not playing for much. They're playing tonight in New York. So I think this is just one where like a heavy, annoying Islanders team just has a lot of the edges and then a massive edge in goal. So, and I would note, like, I think that Elliott's starting is kind of already baked into the price a little bit, but so I'm not really expecting like that bump in line value where like if once Elliott's announced, then it moves because I kind of think this is already factoring that in finally. But seems like a great number to me. And I think it's just such a good spot for the Islanders to try and close out the playoff berth versus like a
Close it
Tampa
out.
team.
They got a lot more work, even if they win. They got so much work to do.
Yes. Well, that's
Uh,
what I mean. You need this one though, where you're starting to
yeah,
get into dicey territory. And I think they can just
already
make
in
it
dicey territory.
such a tough spot for Tampa where it's
Yeah,
just like, do they want to grind one out? Probably not. I know that's a
yeah,
lot to read into like a motivation narrative, but late season back to back, tired team, might not even play their stars, and then you're going to be sitting with an excellent ticket. I just think like you got to pick out some spots to rest your stars of your Tampa. Is a back to back not the perfect one? They've done so many studies, and that's one of the things these teams are watching now is on where players they're watching different, monitoring different things in their bodies and gauging who could potentially be more likely for an injury soon. And the back to backs are the ones where I think those factors are going off the most. So yeah, give me the Owls here. I think it's a great bet.
give you the Isles. I'll probably be on the Isles. I'll be in the building. Um, and I like Kyle Palmieri to be an anytime goal scorer as the fifth leg of this round robin. The Nelson, Engvall, Palmieri line has been really good for the Islanders. Even in a game where they generated nothing against the Hurricanes, that line was dangerous. And it's a lot of it is Pierre Engvall, his ability to exit and enter the zone with his speed, his ability to turn uh, a nothing play into an odd man rush really quickly. For a team like the Islanders that loves to be behind the puck and put as many bodies in the neutral zone as they can, I don't think teams. This is something I've noticed since Engvall's come, as I don't think teams understand how much he changes the team because he is not only the fastest skater on the team, but he's like the only guy who's got that kind of speed in the forward ranks with Barzell out. So it's almost like teams just aren't expecting it. Like they're okay playing a little high risk hockey against the Islanders because they're not going to punish them down the ice with blow by him with speed. But what Engvall does is then if he's on the ice with these two guys, both of which Nelson and Palmieri are great finishers, uh, those scoring chances are starting to show up like basically on a period by period basis. And Palmieri's been playing really good hockey. He's healthy. That line's been going, and he should be a bigger price. I think if Nelson's usually one of the favorites on the Islanders to be an anytime goal scorer, if not the favorite. While Palmieri will be like double his odds. If they flipped, I would just say do Nelson. But with the value you'll get on Palmieri, I'll take him. So Isles, Palmieri, anytime goal scorer for me in that one. And we'll wrap it up there. It's the Islanders as your best bet. The Kings for me. My favorite underdog, the Ottawa Senators. I think you can probably wait that one out. It's 2-1 right now. And you liked Anthony Duclair in that game as an anytime goal scorer. Duclair headlines our round robin, which also includes JJ Paterka, Sammy Blais, Evan Rodriguez, and Kyle Palmieri. Should be a pretty big one if it came through. So maybe an Easter miracle for you, me, and the listeners. For Nick Martin, I'm Michael Leboff. This has been Line Change presented by BetMGM. We will see you again next week.